All right, so we are now live also on TikTok and getting ready for the next episode of WellWave Now, the interactive podcast. So excited to get started. Let me turn my screen around here. So for those of you who are just joining, we do this interactive podcast every week on Tuesdays this hour, 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's 4 p.m. Eastern. And we go live on TikTok. Wonderful group, the WellWave Now group. You can join also the Facebook group, WellWave Now Healthcare Disruptors Facebook group. A lot of resources there. We started the group just to really help individuals who had different health concerns and issues that they might not be able to get questions answered on. And so we've created this group. There's about 4,000 people in the group now, and we get them matched with a provider who can help. That's what the WellWave Now group is all about, is just helping individuals get some of their questions answered and get them connected to the proper provider that can help them. We're not at all against the traditional Western medicine. It obviously has its place. In fact, Dr. Bob Levine, one of the co-hosts here, spent almost 20 years with the Henry Ford Clinic system, and is a renowned brain researcher. And then Tim Daniels, the other co-host, expert at a lot of things, been a health coach, but one of the things I rely on him for personally is for the proper use of PEMF. He's an expert with that technology, and using bioelectromagnetic energy to heal and reduce inflammation. So, are we all set?
Yeah, we're all set, Breck. Thanks for
All
taking
right.
that. Well, I got the Facebook thing going. I think we're going over there and doing that well. So appreciate you handling the introductions there. And so as Breck mentioned, I'm Tim Daniels, and I do have the expertise in the PEM, pulse electromagnetic field therapy, which is a great boon to health, wellness, and performance. But I do that as part of my work as a wellness plan manager, which is really meant to help people achieve their personal objectives in their customized ways, their optimal wellness and super aging. And that's what we do with the WellWave Now group, as Breck alluded to, connected to the right resources. But also we're on a mission here to bring wellness and to the United States and beyond, and help people help as Dr. Bob Dr. Bob wanted to make sure we always said happier too. So not just healthier and not just performing better and well, but be happier. And so, and certainly that relief of pain, that better wellness, the better communication, interaction with your family and relationships that comes through good wellness can certainly make you happier. So we're here to do that. As part of that, what we offer here is this discussion that you're with us here for now. We thank you for attending and participating. And this is where we give out free advice that we hope you can take and make actionable. However, today, that'll be a little different today, in that it's my pleasure to start with you a 3-part series on cleaning your slate with toxins. So today we want to help people be aware of the largeness, the pervasiveness of the toxin issue, to bring that awareness to you. So we're not necessarily going to give you actionable advice today, but what will come in parts 2 and parts 3, as we meet over there, part 2, we'll go into more of the how do you minimize your exposure to it? So that'll be some actionable advice. And in part 3, we'll also then start getting you protocols and certain technologies you can use to help your body in eliminating and avoiding the long-term effects, the short and long-term effects of toxins on that. But as part of that first part, though, you've got to understand what are the categories of toxins that are out there, to really help you understand why we have to spend so much time on it, to say how pervasive it is. So with that, Breck, I'll turn it back to you. I know there's a couple of categories that are close to your heart that you wanted to chat about a little bit.
But yeah, so there's many common environmental toxins that we need to be aware of that really can affect our health and wellness. Some of the obvious ones that we know about with air pollution, if there's a lot of smog or something like that. So let me cover that one first. So air pollution particles, tiny little particles that are floating around. They come from the smog or the exhaust from engines, around industrial complexes. It even come from wildfires. You get your air warnings when there's a wildfire or something like that. You'll always get those warnings of the air quality. Ozone's another part of that, right? And the major component to ozone is the smog. And so if you're in a really large city, or if you're in a city that has inversions, maybe between two mountain ranges and the cloud cover can kind of settle in, it keeps the air trapped in that called an inversion. And so that's another area where you can see smog or have that ozone issues. A lot of lung problems that you can have with that. Here in the desert of Arizona, we have the valley fever. And it's just simply we get dust storms, and so there's a lot of particles of dust in the air, and that can get trapped in your lungs and cause some problems. And then carbon monoxide. Obviously, everyone should have a carbon monoxide warning in their house, some kind of an alert, just as important as a smoke detector. You need to have that. You can start to feel dizzy, have headaches. And that can create some really long-term, negative effects there if you don't remove those toxins from the air. And then nitrogen oxide is another one, emitted from vehicles as well, and other industrial manufacturing, and you can have respiratory problems. So that was the first item, Tim, on my agenda was, hey, let's talk about, air quality and make sure that you're aware of some of those toxins that can come right from your surroundings and inside and outside.
Yeah, Breck, how does animal flatulence fit into
that? Evidently has something to do with global warming. Other than that, I'm not sure. Yeah, but the scary thing about smells is that's particles, right? It's not just this
harmless odor, right?
Yeah, just ominous. Just there's actual little particles of what you're smelling that are going into your.
We're gonna have to censor Bob. There's always a crowd. Bob just
hey, that's a big deal. They're talking about killing cows and stuff because too many cows are
methane footprint. Yes, but
yeah.
Breck, I know there's one it's one thing that you want to remind you of because you often bring it up, and it's in the heavy metals as you're talking about as the qualities of cadmium, and sort of what is that heavy metal, and how often are we exposed to that?
Yeah, every time you press the brakes of your car, you potentially have exposure to cadmium. Batteries. It's a component in building and making batteries. So it's pretty prevalent out there. Also, cigarette smoke can be found in cigarette smoke, and we should all by now know how cigarette smoke isn't that great for us, right? But that's just one of the heavy metals. You've got AC/DC and Metallica too. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to see if I could catch you on that, Tim.
Bob, you started something today.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Lead.
Obviously you remember, the paint older building.
Before you get into that, I can't let you get away with that. It just brought me way back to, it was middle school and a high school saying, but it's very appropriate for today. 50,000 comedians out of work I could turn to. But unfortunately, I'm stuck today with my colleagues, Bob and Breck.
Yep, that's right. Everybody wants to be a comedian. The only difference is that some people get paid for that. So mine are all free.
Go ahead and and I do, since I interrupted you, which I somewhat apologize, but I had to insert that one. Is you guys always know you got to pull me back a little bit at the starts because I often leap in without the definition, and I don't want to assume that everybody understands what a toxin is, and that's I've got to have a common understanding of that. And just simply put, to step back at that level, a toxin is anything that you take into your body that is harmful to you. It can be man-made, it can be natural, as in and I'd even consider the cow excrement and stuff like that natural. But as long as and the effects the toxin can be something that hits you immediately. It could be something that accumulates and develops over time, but it's anything that's just harmful to the human body that we want to try and protect ourselves from.
Yeah.
Which includes the lead that you were starting to talk about, Breck.
Yep. Yeah. So lead, most commonly, if the home is over a certain age, inspectors should be checking that for lead paint. Lead can be in the soil. It can be in your plumbing system. So all of those things should be checked out before, buying a home, or if you're even moving into a new property. Someone should check that to make sure that you don't, not going to expose your family to lead poisoning. Mercury is the other heavy metal that needs to be considered. You hear more and more about that, seafood and fish is supposed to be so good for you, but, you should only even limit that, right? Because there's traces of mercury found in even your common tuna. So don't want to have too many tuna fish sandwiches. You might be increasing the mercury levels in.
Meaning the mercury we all played with in our hands back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So those are the three heavy metals that I've listed as the cadmium, mercury, and lead.
All right. Bob, you look to be chomping at the bit to add things, well, yeah, on your herbicides and pesticides and other things that I know that ought to come to mind for you. Okay.
Well, it goes with everything that Breck was saying. So when we talk about pesticides and herbicides, how many are there? There's so many. It's wild. Okay. And most of the time, you got a problem with something when you cannot pronounce it, right? So there are glyphosates is how you pronounce it. And that's a widely used herbicide. It's been linked to cancer, birth defects, kidney disease. Atrazine is another one. It's an organic compound. It acts as an endocrine disruptor, not a healthcare disruptor. It's an endocrine disruptor. And it can be dangerous for humans, right? Especially in terms of cancer. Then there's chloroperophos. Chloropiferous. How's that?
So that's say that fast 5 times. Yeah.
I know, yeah. So that's a pesticide they spray on crops that we eat all the time, like wheat and potatoes. It can harm the nervous system in younger people and in older people. So, these are compounds that, I'm having a hard time pronouncing because they're synthetic, they're used for a certain reasoning. But yet, guess what? If you can't understand and read the name of a compound, it's probably not going to be good for you, right? So then there's methamil, highly toxic pesticide again, right? Paraquat, everybody knows the word paraquat. That's a pesticide that has been shown to cause problems in humans in terms of development of Parkinson's disease, especially in farm workers, right? Malathion, an organophosphorus insecticide that can be harmful to animals and humans. And let's see, there's neonicotinoids, right? So these are neurotoxic pesticides that can negatively impact the pollinators, the bees, right? Migratory birds, other wildlife. So these are really a problem, right? And then rotenone is another one. It's a plant-derived pesticide that can cause neurotoxic and reproductive toxicity in humans and mammals. So, and there's many more. The list goes on and on. I just picked out the ones I couldn't pronounce. And but these compounds are definitely hazardous for you. And that's why, I think, 50 years ago, 80 years ago, they didn't have a class of foods called organic foods because the foods were organic, where they weren't dumping all this stuff on our produce and farm products. And so nowadays we have organic foods because there's an effort to eliminate these types of compounds. So, unfortunately, organic foods cost a little bit more than conventionally grown foods. Yet it's where we are right now. So if you can't read the label, then you want to stay away from it. And if you are getting farm products that are not organic, well, you know there's going to be a cost to you. That's just what we have to know right now.
Yeah. Back when I was a teenager, Dr. Bob, I lived in the San Joaquin Valley of California, which produced back before NAFTA, it produced 60% or more, 60 to 65% of the total fruits and vegetables, all the fresh produce for the nation. And then NAFTA changed all that, but you'd see those big crop dusters come in and spray the fields and stuff like that. Today, just last week when I was up in the Northwest, I saw them treating, I think it was potato fields, but they were doing it by drones now. So instead of having a plane crop dusting, they have these big drones that fly out over the crops and spray all of the pesticides on it. It's crazy how much that stuff just drifts right with the wind and can go anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we're breathing it, we're eating it. So, I mean, it's an issue. People want to be aware of that. Just at least be aware of it and give it some thought as you're buying your foodstuffs in the store and you're out and about, living life, and you see types of things that Breck's talking about.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what you both hit on there, and something that a couple of our guests, the participants, I like to call them. I like our guests to be more participants because we like to be interactive. So I often refer to them that way. One mentions we're just under in today's environment, and today the way that things are, we're under. I always am cautious about getting into hyperbole, but I don't think this is hyperbole on this one. We're under constant assault, the constant assault from the air. Someone mentioned there, content of carpets you got on there. You talk, Breck, you alluded to the fact that when you press on brakes from vehicles, especially buses and things of that nature, the heavy metals get in the air that could cause certain things. So we're kind of under constant assault from that. And among those things, there's two other ones, categories I'll also go into a little bit more. And one of those is those household products to take a look at. So, around the house, you've got things, even still in paint, there are certain things. In furniture, there are some furnitures are formaldehyde, which can cause issues and things of that nature. You've got one of those things I'll try and see if I can pronounce this one, Bob. I think it's called tricolate or something like that. It's actually my wife and I saw that was in certain hand soaps. And you say, why is that going in the hand soaps when it can cause hormonal disruptions and things of that nature? And so you've got that. So whether it's soaps, whether even things such as that you spray on stay away from brand names here. You spray on disinfectants that you spray on surfaces. So here's a disinfectant, and one of our guests has got something here that at some point we want to comment on. It talks about it can kill germs physically, but not with non-chemical manner. But you got some of those that kill germs in a chemical manner that also contain things that are toxic to the body, and you're using those around the house on that. So and so we've got to be cognizant of that. Then there's a category, Breck, thank you for your designation of me as an expert in the pulse electromagnetic field theory for PEMF. And that falls into a spectrum of something called EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. And some of those are thought to, there's mixed debate. I want to see if Bob jumps in here. Bob, I think Bob's on one side and says it's up here. I'm still not quite certain on some of them.
I was hoping we're going to get to that because I'm excited to talk about some of those things.
Well, go ahead. So on some of them, yes, I remember Breck so one of them that Breck wants to talk about, I'm sure, is the high voltage wires, because you can tell them your story about you in a home but before I go down, so those are things. Certainly, there are things that in the EMF range that can be damaging that are known to be damaging to the body. And that includes even x-rays. Why do you go and I go to my dentist and they want to take x-rays of my mouth or throwing something heavy over my chest? Because those same x-rays they fall in what's called ionizing EMFs. And they're called ionizing because they can actually separate atoms and things of that nature and damage tissue. But just found that X amount of X-rays for what they give us are more, the benefits can outweigh the potential effects of it. But PET scans. We often talk about how do you communicate with our doctors, a past episode of that. And I was in with a specialist here 3 months ago, who I just went to see again yesterday and cleared me and everything. But we were debating whether or not I should have a PET scan. And he said, that'll light you up if we put you in there in the gamma rays, and because there was ionizing tissue got damaged. And I said, well, if we found what you think might be there was speculation, what would we do about it at this point anyway? And he said, exactly, nothing. Beautiful question. So there's no need to do that. So yeah, so gamma rays or stuff like that from PET scans, X-rays certainly can. Then there's the things that are in what I will talk about that are in debate. So go ahead and talk about as one of those things that are debates, Breck, go ahead and talk about your high voltage wires.
Yeah. So, I had this opportunity to buy this home, and my wife just loved it. It absolutely had everything we were looking for. Main thing was it had this huge backyard. It was on a full acre. And here in Arizona, to have a big grassy full acre back lot is pretty hard to come by unless you're out in the farm community somewhere or something like that. But really liked it. But there were high tension wires that just barely creeped over the very back end of the property. And I couldn't do it. I mean, that buzzing and snapping every time you walk anywhere near the back part of the property was just horrible to me. And I've done a lot of training runs where you try to find a long trail and in some place where you can get out of the traffic, and they seem to always run underneath high tension wires, and I just can't do those trail runs that are underneath those high tension wires because there's just something. Maybe it's a sensory issue that I have, being OCD or something, but I just cannot stand being underneath that snapping and popping and crackling.
Yeah, but there was some thought, I think, amongst farmers and ranchers at some point that they could cause birth defects and other things. But then I will add, so I'll take it into the other end of the range a little bit, where I have some debate and thought, and it's open in my mind to some interpretation and further study, is things like people are concerned about Wi-Fi's. They're concerned about their cell phones, things of that nature. And those are called low frequency non-ionizing. So the non-ionizing, they're not supposed to be able to have that tissue damage, but microwave falls into that. So what about leakage, right? People that, so we were talking earlier, Breck, about people who would put their microwave in certain parts of a shielded part of the home, things of that nature.
Yep.
I know people that go around with measuring devices to say how much of these is your TV emitting, your microwave, and all that, to say, are you exposing to that? So to me, there's been some thought that it could be linked to leukemia in kids. It could be used to tissue damage and things of that nature amongst the older parts. Brain tumors is thought from holding your cell phone up there too. Now, I will say, if you take a look at Europe, who tends to be more sensitive for this, and one European country, and it's also European, Asian, what have you, Russia, there is broader concern. France, I think it's France in 2015, don't hold me to the date, said they didn't want Wi-Fi in nursery schools because
Yep.
of developing the brain, want to be careful with brain development of those kids. Taiwan, said that they didn't want Wi-Fi routers and things in kids under the age of 2. Now, Russia, I'll get into my thought on that, where the Russians have put very, very limits on the amount of exposure to these low frequency EMFs, much more than any other country on that. So that then leads to speculation, my own anecdotes, because I think that there's some thought. I won't get into, I'm not going to be one of these conspiracy people thing, but if you look at a thing called Havana syndrome, where there were diplomats first, and they first noticed in Havana that they got in trouble, brain nausea, things of that nature. There's some thought that was caused by EMFs and caused by certain countries. So on one hand, if that certain country is sitting over there banning these things, that they may have done some research that we're not aware of at this point in time. That's as far as I'll go on that. So I come down on the side, and I want Bob's comments on the side, and look, there's enough to be cautious. Why overexpose yourself to microwaves? Why overexpose yourself to Wi-Fi, things of that nature? And just be prudent about it. Bob, what's your thinking?
Yeah, prudent is the word. I mean, I agree with whoever said we're getting bombarded or assaulted by all of this stuff. And the human being, our human condition can take so much in terms of onslaught of our health. Like, look at cigarette smoking. People can smoke cigarettes for 40, 50, 60 years and they're fine until bam, they get caught by it. So I think that all of these, EMFs and other things are going to be shown eventually to be really problematic. It's just a matter of time. They haven't been around that long, this high doses of them. So I'm very careful. I mean, I have anti-EMF stuff around me a lot because I think it's important. That's just my feeling.
And that PEMF device that we all use is supposed to be one that is supposed to help clear out some of the EMFs. Now, I will say, I want to add in that EMF range that another reason why I'm cautious with it is because when we talked about the other toxins, you can ingest them, you can inhale them, they can be absorbed. EMFs have the potential to interact with you in so many different ways because that's a frequency. It can resonate with frequencies in your body and cause certain things. It can resonate when it comes in contact with particles on your body and do that. It can trigger off like a microwave. It can trigger off thermal reactions in your bodies, and a number of other things. So there's a lot to EMFs, and one does have to be cautious with at the very high end ionizing ones, surely be cautious with it. And even at the low frequency ones that aren't shown to be helpful, like PEMF, is be prudent with them. And that's one of the things, Bob, and will any of you comment on? I know there are some groups, everybody should be conscious of it, be aware of it. That's why we're having this discussion. But there are also some very vulnerable groups. And so any of you want to comment on the very vulnerable groups that are there?
Well, I'll just say one thing. I mean, the subject of microwaving came up, and there was an interesting study done many years ago where they were exposing infant formula milk to microwave versus no microwave, and they were showing that in the group that was microwaved, the young babies had developmental problems because the microwave was doing whatever it was doing to the infant formula, and it was hurting the baby's development. So, I mean, we don't even know the issues around all this stuff yet. We're just learning about it. But cancers are on the rise. We know that. We're not winning the war on cancer, that's for sure. We know that's not happening because we get excited about it. There's a 1% drop or a 2% drop in cancer rates, but really, does that mean much? So I just think we got to be careful. We got to understand what learn as people watch our show and they learn about some of these hazards, they can make up their own mind. They can do their own research and they can make decisions about what they want to buy and what they want to use in the house. And as I guess this first show is like, this is the bad news show. Then in parts 2 and 3, we get to what's the good news? What can you do? And what can you do to get this stuff out of your body so that, over the long run, over 10, 20 years, we're not impacted by it. And then what can we use in the place of some of these other substances, which are problematic? What can we use that's healthy for us, that doesn't hurt us?
But before we close out here, you'll have some good news, Bob. I know you want to talk to a little bit. But I'll come back to that. But it's one thing before that. But you'll also talk today a little bit about what exists in the body naturally to help with the detoxification. Breck, you got a comment before I speak?
Yeah, just real quick, I was going to mention about the study on microwave. And I don't know if it was actually the microwaves that were affecting that formula. It could be that there's enzymes in the milk that are supposed to be there that are being absolutely killed. Like that's the worst thing you can do with your whole honey, right? Is try to, when it crystallizes, the worst thing you can do is throw it in the microwave to get it liquefied again, because now you're killing all the good enzymes that are in that honey.
That's true. It's probably related to that. I couldn't help but bring it up because it's right there. And most people don't know anything about, most people have never heard about that study. And then we all have microwaves in our homes. There are some people, like in the last house that I owned, I didn't have a microwave for the reason that I just don't want to be exposed to that kind of radiation. And when you have a when you have a detecting mechanism to test the EMFs coming off of there, it's dramatic, and you got to get like 10, 15, 20 feet away before you're away from it completely.
Right.
Yeah, so Bob, one of those testers I was talking about. You got your measurement device, you can test them. Yeah, so
Bob's like my nephew that keeps his microwave in
the
the
closet.
pantry. They close off the door and they're not anywhere near it while it's running.
Yeah.
So we've talked about there's a wide spectrum of toxins out there: heavy metals, pesticides, plastics, air pollutants, EMFs, household materials, and things of that nature. So and you're exposed to it by inhalation, by absorption, and by interaction in the case of EMFs. Well, but one thing but I want to make sure again. So we say to bombard it, but I also want people, and it's harmful. I also quickly though I want to read down, and then I will be reading this part, but I think it's important to see what's the impact these things have on people, so they know why we're also talking about this.
Right.
Take heavy metals, it's nausea, vomiting, headaches, cognitive impairment. One of our guests brought that up. The plastics, hormonal disruption. So that's how your body processes and what it can do. Allergic reaction, air pollutants, respiratory irritation, asthma attacks, eye irritation. Where EMFs do impact: headaches, fatigue, sleep disturbances. We've talked about how important sleep is to people. Household chemicals, skin irritation, respiratory issues, headaches, food additives, allergic reaction, gastrointestinal distress. And that's just the short-term effects. Long-term, heavy metals, neurological damage, kidney damage, cancer, pesticides, increased cancer risk, reproductive risk, neurological disorders, the Parkinson's and things of that nature. Plastics, endocrine disruption, fertility. Think about the impact on someone in their lineage and want to have kids and care for kids. And some of the stuff has been shown to be linked to polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is detrimental to female fertility. On it, and so that's enough. There's more, but I don't want to belabor the point. This is very, very impactful. Breck?
Just one other thing that needs to be added to that list, and that's what if those toxins are prescribed to you? Scary drug facts.
That's very drug fact person. All right. And then two things. And then Bob, I want you to comment. We're running a little long. We try to break this into 3 parts, but even this first part is running a little long here.
Yeah. We might have to go 4, Tim. You might we're still
have to go for it. But both of you touched on this in different ways, that we ought to be cognizant of the toxins. One is what they call bioaccumulation. So somebody says, am I really being impacting? It's not affecting me. Nothing's going on. Is this stuff real? That gets back to Bob's thought and on the cigarettes as a prime example. Some people can do this for a year, but these toxins accumulate in the body. And they get to the point where they're not getting out as fast as they're coming in. That accumulative effect impacts you. Then there's something you touched upon, Breck, on the fish and eating the mercury, and it's called biomagnification. And that means that as humans most humans, or even if I'm about to say most humans, even if they eat in the carnivores, but it also applies. I checked myself on that because it also applies even if they're vegetarians, because certain things get into the soil. The plants accumulate them. It's magnified when we take them in. If it's animal products like the fish, they eat mercury and that builds up and it gets into us. So they're magnified. So we got 2 other challenges aside from this, all the various ways we're assaulted, is the fact that they can build up in the body, and the fact that if we're higher up on the chain of eating, that they can be magnified when we take them in. But Bob, if you would, before we depart today, if you'll touch upon the fact about it's not all bad news today, that the body does have some natural defenses in there.
Yeah. When you want to talk about natural body defense mechanisms against toxins, you have to look at certain internal organs. You got to look at the liver, got to look at the lungs, the digestive system, and to a certain extent, sweat, can eliminate some toxins. So I'm just going to cover the liver right now, real quick, just so people get an idea about it. So in the liver, there's some enzymes called cytochrome P450 family of enzymes, and what those enzymes do is they metabolize or convert toxic compounds to more toxic compounds to either non-toxic or less toxic compounds. So there's a whole series of that whole family of P450 enzymes. It's a chain which breaks down these toxins, and it's really powerful. And when we take in they have a certain capacity to eliminate toxins. And when we overload that capacity, guess what? There's no more. The liver doesn't have the ability to handle it all. So those molecules are going out in the blood and they're running all over the body. And most of them are fat soluble. Most of these toxins that you'll know about are fat soluble. So they're getting through cell membranes, they're going inside of cells, they're getting deposited into fat stores. And that's why when we talk about detox mechanisms or how to detox the body, that's why we need those. We can't, some people say, just rely on the body. The body's got all these natural detox ways of doing things like the liver and the kidney and the digestive system. But you know what? That they only have a certain limited capacity. It's almost like, you have a gas tank that'll hold 30 gallons, but if you're shoving 80 gallons in it, the rest of the gas is going to go everywhere else. So you got to know that the reason why we have detox systems and ways of detoxing the body, which we'll talk about later, is because of the overload of our endogenous or inside organs abilities to detox. So that's the way the liver works. There's always a series of enzymes, and there's different phases of going from highly toxic, transforming to less toxicity, sometimes transforming to no toxicity. The molecules can go out in the bloodstream. They can get eliminated by the kidney or the intestines in terms of urine or feces, right? So, and the lungs have a similar system. They work kind of like the same way. The kidneys have a similar system. They work the same way. And of course, the kidneys are eliminating the water-soluble toxins that are going through the body, and also these detoxified molecules that are coming out of the liver and the lungs to go through the kidneys to get eliminated. And of course, digestive system is eliminating through feces other toxic compounds. So that's all I want to say for now about how the body mechanisms. The key thing is to know body organs can detoxify really well, and body toxins and body organs can be overloaded with toxins, and that's where the problems come in.
Right. All right, beautiful. Breck, anything you want to add at this point?
No, that's great. Any more questions come into the chat?
Not really, not yet. I'm going to reach out and I want to tap Scott, who's with us here in a moment, and give him a chance to comment on something. But prior to that, just recapping, so we touched on this topic. We went on this topic because of the fact that toxins are harmful to the body, the fact that our environment is not as pristine as what it once was and when it started out. So we're constantly under assault from air intake interactions on this. These have very detrimental short-term impact and long-term impact to our body. So this is part of, we often talk about all the things you can do right for yourself, and we'll get to that, but we talk about the lifestyle changes. And Bob talks about this. I love that I've got this memorized now. There's automatic pattern interruptions and his future to do that. I talk about having your plan and managing out, really look at your wellness and do that systematically and across all different ways, which this kind of plays into. But one thing on that is this toxins, it can be a disruptor to all of that. And so it's really that important for us to look at this, understand in part 2 how to minimize it, understand in part 3 how we can support the body. And that's why we're spending this amount of time on it. Bob, you had a...
I wanted to say one more thing regarding why we're talking about toxicity and toxins. Why talk about them at all? Our whole mission as WellWave Now, the WellWave Now group, is because we want to support healthful longevity, right? Happy, healthful longevity. And I love saying it that way. I get Tim to smile. It's awesome. And if you're going to be swimming in toxicity, there's no way we can live the longest, happiest life. And then we get struck down by some ill health condition, cancer maybe, which causes us a problem and deteriorates the quality of our life. So this is really a super important topic. You need hydration, detoxification, food quality. We'll get into all that stuff.
Right.
Chronic pain relief, all that.
And I feel I've got to respond a little bit here because people might be wondering, is Tim a crotchety old Midwest guy who doesn't want anybody to be happy? No, it's because as Bob and talked about and Breck's talked about, we talk about, I take our mission, which will evolve over time as we work with people. I take it very seriously in helping improve the health and wellness in people. And I had this debate with my colleagues. Do I really want to be responsible for somebody being happy? That is a tough thing to be responsible for somebody being happy. But then I did come to realize and acknowledge after going several rounds and being double teamed that that living with less pain can make making someone happy, helping someone thrive, is that. So I acknowledge someone happier that way.
Yeah. That's part of our mission too, because it's mind, body, spirit. It's everything. It's a whole human being, right? Yeah. Made in the image of God.
There you go.
Right. So that's it.
Bob, parting comments. I know you've got a.
Yeah, I've got to get going. I just want to thank everybody for being here. It's great to see all of you, and I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks because we're going to be getting into the good news. I gave you some of the news that you need to hear, you need to know about, and then the next few times we're going to really uncover how to make it. Let's just say make it right, make it great, make it happy, make it wonderful.
Yep.
So I'll see everybody later. Take care.
See you later. So
thanks, Dr. Bob.
One of the shows that Dr. Bob used to watch, these made me watch in reruns, is the Beverly Hillbillies. And they used to talk about, come on back.
I'm leaving. I'll see you.
Have a heap and helping of your hospitality. So we'd love to have you come back next week and join us and participate. If you got some benefit from this, please bring a guest, just send comments. We also, if you're not a member of our Healthcare Disruptors Facebook group, please join over there. That's where we encourage people to support each other. And we also ask them questions about their conditions, about their medications, things of that nature, help each other out, as well as then we have experts comment and participate in that as well. So thank you all for joining us. Appreciate it. And please come back.
All right. Thanks, everyone.